This is my second video for my thoughts on whatever series. I want to talk about the Middle East in this video, and I'm going to bring up a couple of different issues that are going on, and see how many of you think some of the same stuff that I do about it, because I've talked to a lot of people and they've all said different things to me about it. The other day I was talking to a person, probably about, I guess it would have been 1930s, 1940s, and then another person from the 1920 era, and they were talking about how a lot of people are now pushing to bring more jobs and more opportunities back to America, and being a a country that could pretty much be self-sufficient if you consider the whole entire country as a collective self, to be sufficient at being able to supply the needs of all the citizens in each state, from the west to the east coast. I think it sounds like a pretty good idea. We have pretty much everything we need here, even if there was no, without importing something from some foreign place. A lot of times, I feel like what has been going on lately, and what seems to be the concern of a lot of people, is that leadership, as far as the government is concerned here in the USA, they believe that these corporate people have greater interests in business that is in the Middle East, and so that's why they keep on trying to form governments there that are basically what some have termed to be puppet governments that kind of cater to the interests of the West for an exchange of who knows what, money, funds, this sort of thing, weapons. So what people believe is that too much money and weapons and lives of U.S. soldiers are being lost due to corporate interests. This is not the first time that some of you will have heard this before, because a lot more people know a whole lot more about it than I do, I'm sure. These are just my thoughts on the matter. Still, at the same time, it's really starting to cause a strain in the Middle East, and here's the reason why I don't believe that peace will continue. In the Middle East, there's not peace there. We need to start facing it for what it is. The more times that they spend out there with foreign occupation or foreign military occupation of a country that hates anybody to be in its midst, and has since ancient times, during the times of the great warrior Saladin. During those times, there was not someone to welcome foreign invasion as an option. That's the reason why the Crusaders were expelled, and a lot of wars were fought over that, basically the Holy Land. So nowadays, what I feel like is that bringing the soldiers home, because a lot of lives are being wasted, thrown away for corporate interests, and groups like the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Now I'm going to talk about my thoughts about them. This Islamic state of Iran or Iraq and Syria, they are an army. They're not. I mean, they're like a combination of rebel forces. It's the rebels combined from the north and south and east and west. They're coming back to what they consider to be the the older form of Islam. You know, I myself am not of any religion. I'm not a Christian, or I'm not a Muslim. Of Judaism, any of that. Not Buddhism, not Hinduism. I just believe in being a spiritual human being, a nomad. I try to live my life a whole lot that way, that Abraham would have lived. I don't believe that Abraham was any of those religions, and so I'm not one of them either. I believe in the old ways that even existed before there was any Crusaders or any Islam, any Buddha, any of the different religions that we have today. I believe in the ancient peoples and the rights to be free and explore the earth and its different many beautiful places, and being free to move around or wander around if one wants to. So I look at it like that. I see modern day, like I see the Bedouin over there in the Middle East to be the descendants of Abraham, most closely living like Abraham did. And the problem, going back to foreign occupation and the problems that are caused in the world, the Bedouin, I watched a YouTube video the other day, and I've seen this before, but I see these tanks pushing down Bedouin camps, tearing down their homes, roughing up children and smacking people and beating people up and bullying them, while the 1947 Kingdom of Israel continues to expand its borders. And it's going past the old type law for ancient Israel. Even in the book of the old law, even in the Bible, it says not to move the markers, basically the land markers that show from the old times whose land and what territory is whose and how it is. So the Bedouins most closely live like the ancient nomads like Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac. They are the modern descendants, the natives, if you will, of the Middle East, who are living the most like their ancestors to this day. Mostly Arab speaking, but when I give my thoughts on this, I want you to understand that I'm not against the civilians, the people that live in the state we call Israel. Israel, as a 1947 government, is catering to foreign, business interests, and so a lot of the people over there who have had a whole lot of their land and their natural resources threatened, and they're been pushed off their land as well, down into the further south. It's just completely unacceptable. The reason that these organizations of terror have members is because there's more than one person who doesn't agree with the way that things are going on in the Middle East. They don't want foreign occupation. They don't want it. And just like Vietnam, it was hard enough for a country the size of the United States to win a war against a small place like that, when the people just wouldn't stop fighting. They just kept coming and fighting, and it didn't matter if a bunch of missiles dropped or not. They were just running in there with hatchets and all sorts of stuff, and they didn't even care. They were just going sort of kamikaze in some way. So what I see with the Middle East to this day is a growing concern among Middle Easterners that they don't want any foreign occupation. They don't want any foreign governments being set up in the interest of corporate interests. They don't want that, and they hate that. And unfortunately, they're making people pay that are like civilians who are over there, because they kidnap some journalist, and then he gets his neck slowly butchered over others, mistakes. And I mean, here's a guy, Foley, to talk about Foley for a minute, James Foley. I don't believe the nonsense that they were talking about when they were saying, that Foley was reading cue cards or some ridiculous thing. I mean, James Foley knew he was getting ready to die. He knew it. So he didn't really have that much to lose, knowing that his neck was going to be butchered the way that it was. I believe that James Foley spoke from the heart. Myself as an American citizen, I believe James Foley spoke from the heart. I believe that he thought that there was corporate interest that got him killed, and the presence of foreign military on what is considered to be the Holy Land, the Middle East, in the interest of corporate America, in the disgusting people that do evil, like forsaking environmental safety and people and tribes. They build all these factories in places like Ecuador and make people sick. And it's those same kind of people that are trying to buy their way into the Middle East and put themselves in charge over the various rich oil, the oil deposits and the various different mining that is just south of the state of Israel, down into the Negev, North and South Sinai, the Euphrates, the peninsulas, all those places, all the way down to the footsteps of Ethiopia through the Sudan. They're the richest, most abundant places of gemstones, gold, precious metals, silver, and underground oil reserves. So instead of bringing the military back like they should, they keep putting them out there and spending money to set up other governments that other people keep fighting against. And I don't believe Israel has to worry about the Islamic state of, I think it is Iraq or Iran in Syria, or Iraq and Syria. It's ISIS, and so what I say is that they are greatly underestimating the amount of rebels in the Middle East, and by this I mean people that are tired of foreign governments and foreign occupation, and they're tired of it. I mean, it's just getting to a point where it's critical, and so that's why I decided to speak about my thoughts on it. Israel is anticipating that they may be attacked from the north in Assyria, and even people with Bible degrees, people that study history, they believe that Syria and all that stuff up through there represents the northern king that's spoken about in Daniel, the book of Daniel in the Bible. What I believe is that the independent state of Iraq and Syria is not going to attack from the north. I believe that they will combine forces at the south, where Israel keeps on bullying people. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about one 1947 kingdom that's established as a collective group of elites that exist there. I'm not against the Israeli people. I mean, if they could speak against what is going on, probably would have something to say if they didn't think, the military just bullies everything around. I make the claim because after I saw the Bedouins, women and children being shoved around, tied up with plastic handcuffs, and removed from their land, it reminded me of the Trail of Tears. And that's why I say that the Bedouin is the native of the Middle East that lives most like Abraham, because it's true. And so them living in tents and doing what they're doing, Israelis put the army or whatever, the government has put a restriction on every single thing that goes on there. People can't even have homes. They're getting their homes pushed down, and they try to move further back, and then they just keep coming over the line again and pushing people and bulldozing their homes because they're saying it's not safe, and that there's restrictions and guidelines on how to, be up to their standard of, building structures. And it would take the people of Gaza. It would take the nomad that lives there in the Negev desert, the Bedouin, and the rest of them. It would take them, many years to be able to, slave work as, as the slave drivers in the Israeli government continue to make these great demands and lift up the bar so high that nobody can even reach to it. Again, there I have said that the forces of the rebels are combining themselves together. The ISIS is most likely going to strengthen forces in the south, and there will be a push against Israel from the south. In that push, they'll continue probably fighting down into Gaza, and unfortunately, the way it looks to me is that there's a whole lot of interest in expelling foreign invaders and foreign armies from their midst. I'm sure they don't mind having people come and visit. Once they expel everyone, they'll allow people to come and visit, but it won't be the way that it is now in our very near future. Israel, the state that it is now, is not going to be in existence forever. Some people argue that God established that government, but other people argue that God didn't establish it, that it was established by governments, elite corporate people who had interests in the buying and selling and trading, if you will, of the riches that are there in the Middle East. So again, if Israel continues to do what it's doing to Gaza and doing all that down into there, first of all, Saudi Arabia and the Sudan, they are Muslim nations, and they have, for instance, they have the death penalty. They have what is called decapitation. In other words, they're having the head cut off for someone who does a serious offense. And what they try to do to us, and the media tries to do to us, is show us things that happen, like James Foley, and then they want the American public to be ready to go to war and all this stuff because we seen a poor guy getting his head cut off. But the truth is, to all my American friends, people are getting killed and getting their head cut off almost like every day over there. There's somebody that happens